Redzel, he's made the Tab Everest his own. As it currently stands, Redzel is the only horse to have won the Tab Everest, having claimed the first 2 runnings of the richest race on turf. Can he achieve the three-peat? There will be knockers, no doubt. They'll snicker. The 7-year-old is past his best. He can't keep up with the young guns, that he should have gone out on top. But you get the impression that that underdog tag sits just fine with Redzel and his legion of owners. There is no denying that Redzel's form slipped over the autumn, but master training duo Peter and Paul Snowden are sure he's over whatever issues were holding him back. We saw a glimpse of that in his recent Rosehill Barrier trial. It was the Redzel of old, sustained speed and the refusal to lose. The Redzel that 2 years ago claimed the first running of the Tab Everest, holding off Vega Magic before kicking clear at the top of the straight to go back-to-back. He is fittingly named Richie around his Randwick yard, given he has amassed a staggering $15.5 million in prize money. There will be no hiding for the defending champ in Saturday's Concord Stakes, but whatever he does there, we know that when those signature red blinkers are fitted come October 19 at Royal Randwick, he's all too familiar with the challenge that awaits him.
Well, in the lead up to this race, even for the defending champion and the old boy Redzel, there is nowhere to hide. There is nowhere to hide.
Not Saturday.
Chris and Michael Ward, who have been on this show twice, Trek to the Everest. They've also appeared on the Sunday Thoroughbred Weekly show Post-Everest twice.
They've got this down pat, haven't they?
They know what to do and what it's all about. Welcome back, boys, and here we go for the third.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's a thrill just to be involved in it once, let alone twice and let alone 3 times. So fingers crossed that he can repeat the dates again this year.
And he will be the only horse to compete in 3 Everests.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess if that's what happens when you win, isn't it? You get asked back again the next year. So we're very lucky to have him lining up for a third, and we're very excited about what's ahead of us.
Chris, I saw him at the stables. I went and caught up with Pete and had a look at him, Richie. He looks fresh. He was feeling good. He was bouncing around, which is something that you don't normally see from Redzel.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I think, look, all the feedback from both Karen and Peter and Paul, and each time we've seen him as well, his demeanour's just been first class. They've been more than happy with him. His action's been great in his track work, and really, for all intents and purposes, he's been going as well as ever leading into a preparation.
There is a bit of pressure on him, isn't there, because he hasn't won since the Everest last year, and he was a little bit disappointing in the autumn, to be fair. And Peter and Paul did say that he had a couple of minor issues. What's the level of confidence going into Saturday, because this is a hot Concord Stakes, boys?
I think you always hold a little reservation after being a bit below the prep before, but really I think he's come back and probably better than last preparation in his trials leading into it, which is really encouraging, and all the feedback's been fantastic. So yes, you have a little reservation in the back of your mind, but really we are quite confident.
Was it a bit of relief off your shoulders, I suppose, in the sense that you could pinpoint what the problem was? He had that little bit of arthritis that was treated before he went out for a spell. Does that take a little bit of the pressure off, knowing that he still has that want to race?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when they have a bit of a below par prep, you really want to find out why that may be. If we look back to last prep, he did actually come back really well, but it was just in those subsequent runs where he did just fall away a little bit compared to the usual consistent Redzel. But we're lucky we were able to detect a problem with him, and if you can do that, you're a long way ahead, because then you can take steps to address it.
The first trial back, no blinkers. I think it's the best he's trialled without blinkers ever. That must have been an encouraging sign. And then, as we saw earlier, that Rosehill trial, Nature Strip, followed him the whole way. But that was the Redzel blinding speed of old, wasn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. That's what we're looking to see, is see him fly the gates, and he certainly did that there at Rosehill. And I think if we compare his first up trial that you said, that was super for him. If we look back at last preparation, he actually got beaten first up by a maiden horse. So that's him without the blinkers on. So what we saw this time through is as good as we've ever seen him trial. So it gives us some confidence coming into this preparation.
Was there ever any doubt that the reigning champ wouldn't be in the 2019 Everest?
No, I think we're always very confident. He's it's hard for the slot holders to look past a 2-time Everest champ, and he's such a consistent horse, and really he's a horse that makes his own luck, as we've often spoken about. He's out in front, and you're not worrying about the tempo of what's in front of you, and you're not worried about getting blocked for a run and held up, all that sort of thing. So on that front, he's pretty bomb-proof, and again, trained by Peter and Paul Snowden, grand final trainers, as we all know. they know how to get him peaking on the right day, as they've done the last couple of years.
You heard that comment from Les Bridge a moment ago when asked about the jockey situation, and he described his chances of getting Kieran McAvoy as 50-50. Are you 50-50, or are you thinking it might be 60-40 towards Red Zell?
I'm thinking 60-40 myself, Greg. Well, I guess, look, I look at it, obviously he's on both horses, and but I think, with the experiences he's had with Red Zell over the last couple of years, and you can only imagine if he did decide to jump off the two-time champ and Red Zell went on to win again, he'd be kicking himself the rest of his life, wouldn't he?
When I spoke to Pete and asked him that question, he said, "I know jockeys don't have a reputation for loyalty, but I think if this guy's near his best, that Kieran will be on board."
Yeah, it's purely out of love and loyalty.
And loyalty, yeah. Peter said something just prior to the Everest last year when he said he wished everyone could experience what he and you guys would have experienced after the 2017 Everest. Well, no one's had that yet because you guys got it again last year. Can you give us some sort of appreciation of just what an Everest means, not only to you as businessmen, as part owners, but also for Peter and Paul?
Look, it's a life experience. I mean, the money everyone talks about is obviously astronomical, and it's a life-changing amount for our owners, but really it's a life experience at the end of the day that you can't replicate it anywhere else, and really words don't do it justice. It's it's out of this world. We've been fortunate to win other Group 1s and that sort of thing, but this is above a Group 1. It really is, and it's for us professionally, it's a huge thrill and a feather in the cap that we're very proud of. But ultimately, to be able to share that with the owners and all extended family and friends and that sort of thing, it's something that you'll remember for the rest of your life.
It's hard to tell the difference, apart from the rain on the camera lens.
From the 2 years.
The 2 years. They were both sort of overcast days. One was a lot wetter than the other, of course. But the scenes coming back to scale of McAvoy throwing his hands up and all your owners wearing red, it's hard to determine which is which.
There's a real sense of deja vu, wasn't there?
It was almost identical.
It was, yeah. No, I've got a couple of photos at home of exactly what you're talking with. Kieran raising his arms as he comes back into scale, and it's virtually the same photo with all the owners and the press and everyone around. It's just a surreal experience to be able to do it again.
What's it done? Sorry, Jules. What's it done for your business, Michael? That's 2 in a row, 2 Everests with this horse that everyone knows now. He's such a familiar name. What's it done to the Triple Crown brand? Yeah, look, I mean, obviously it gets your name out there, and not just in Australia, but also worldwide. It has, it's got real cut through the race. Just in after a couple of years, it's really got that cut through. Everybody who's involved in the industry and everybody who follows racing is aware of the Everest. It's a race that not just us, but everybody wants to win the Everest. That's that's the number one race for us in terms of our business, and it's great to be able to do that and have owners experience as well, a syndicate of owners.
It is becoming such a spectacle. Has it surprised you how quickly this concept has taken off and how quickly the country has really embraced it?
It's been an absolute juggernaut. I mean, to see a race get this sort of traction in year one, it was enormous from the word go, wasn't it?
No one knew what was going to happen.
No, that's right, and you can't expect that, and just the build-up to it was enormous. I think a lot of kudos goes to Racing New South Wales and the ATC and how they've promoted it, and obviously the concept itself lends itself to the extra media coverage and all that sort of thing as well. But they've done an outstanding job building this into a major international event that does get followed right around the world, as Mike was saying. But more than that too, I think it cuts through the general public as well. The amount of people that I've spoken to about it that they don't generally follow racing, but they know about Red Zell, they know that we've been involved and want to come up and have a chat about it. It's fantastic for the sport.
Now, before you win your 3rd Everest, you're going to try and win your 3rd Concorde.
Correct.
That's the starting point, isn't it? It's all about this Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is where we kick off. I think, as Chris pointed out earlier in the show, we're in the fortunate position of already having a slot. So it's not all about Saturday. But it is a good starting point to see where we're at. But to have that slot already locked in takes a little bit of that pressure off. He's a horse that always performs well first up, and he does perform well over the 1,000 metres, but in our opinion he's a much better horse at 1,100 and 1,200.
Because just to refresh everyone's memory, before the Concorde year one you didn't have a slot.
No, that's right. That's right.
Did it come straight after that race?
It did come straight after that. So, so it's obviously an important race for everybody. But having that bedded down at the moment, it really helps us now going into this preparation.
Do you lead on Saturday? Given there's a horse called Zoo Style, I don't think it's ever been headed in a trial or a race. Do you guys lead on Saturday, given how Redzel was ridden in that second trial?
Yeah, I think Keren's got the option. I think he can certainly lead. I think he'll bounce out and be very prominent. And I'm sure Tony Gollan's horse will be right there as well. So, but he's proven in the past that he can take up the lead and be very effective, or he can just sit back off the leader as well. And I'm sure Keren will sum that up in the first sort of 200-300 metres.
I think it's going to be most interesting because we talked about this earlier, about the horses that have a slot are there and they can just target this Everest. But Graf, Zeus Style, Nature Strip, they have to make a statement. They have to be revved up, ready to go.
This is six of the best, isn't it? There's 6 horses in this race. Lights isn't going to run. It is really 6 of the best, and that's a cliche. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, at the moment, there's $2 separating 5 of the horses in the race, so that's how tight it is.
Can I ask you guys, how do you feel Redzel's the rank outsider?
Well,
I'm
I
not
think
sure he'll stay there myself.
You guys have a bet, are you?
It won't be us bringing it in, but he has been coming in. I think he opened at about 11. I think he's into 7 now. But it's fair enough too. He was a bit below par last prep, but I think it'll shorten a little bit from there.
Is it taking taking a bit of the pressure off, the fact that the attention is on these guys that are desperate to get a spot in the Everest now, that you can just go about the plan, go about the schedule?
Yeah, well, I think that's what it's all about. There is a plan in place, and the plan is to go third up into the Everest and peak on that day. And you've seen Peter and Paul basically mastered that the last couple of years. And you saw last year, the Premier Stakes, where I think Redzel came 5th leading into the grand final. And that sort of highlights, how important it is to get a plan, stick to that plan, and just have them peaking at the right time. And that's not this Saturday. But having said that, he does race well fresh, and we're looking forward to seeing him run well.
And luckily, you can keep a lid on your owners. The expectation.
Good luck.
The expectation. I'm not talking about on the day. You can't keep a lid on them at all. I'm talking about leading up to it. The expectation isn't as high in year 3 because they've been there twice. They've got their Everest.
They've practiced. They're ready to go again, aren't they, guys?
I'm sure they are.
Coming to the third year, whatever will be.
Yeah. Well, look, at the end of the day, after winning it in the first year, after that, it's really just a bonus from there on in, and even more so this year. But I think the way he's come back, he's going to be very prominent, and he's a live chance again, which we can't be more thankful for.
So where do you put a 3rd Everest trophy if you get that?
Good problem to have.
Where do you put that? That thing's not getting any smaller. Those trophies are huge.
They're pretty big paperweights, aren't they?
And it's bigger this year, isn't it?
It's bigger this year. It's worth more diamonds.
Jill's had a sneak peek, guys.
It's
gone bigger again.
Yeah, trust me, I tried to look at a way of chipping out of you, but impossible.
Sure.
But
Volandis counts every diamond.
The diamonds are getting bigger. It's worth $750,000 this year. As the race gets bigger, this trophy gets bigger and more shiny and sparkly. But it's a nice
Quite
problem.
incredible, isn't it?
Well, you saw it.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable, but that's a nice problem to have. Where are the first 2?
Oh, they're locked away in a nice safe spot, that's for sure.
See you out there Saturday.
Absolutely, can't wait.
The journey begins again. Chris and Michael Ward looking at Redzel. Got more to come on Trek to the Everest.